Let me tell you all the craziest, sane take you'll hear all day. Now, what you may not realize is this is the youngest quarterback matchup in an NFC Championship game in NFL history. The two quarterbacks behind me, Jalen Hurts, Brock Purdy, y'all get that. But you realize that the gap between the two isn't all that wide. Now, calm down. I'm not talking about the talent gap. One is a second-round pick. The other, a seventh-round pick. Clearly, that matters until it doesn't. I'm talking about the performance gap. Let's give some respect to who Brock Purdy is. We've seen him now for 7 weeks. And you realize what we have seen in those 7 weeks? Well, compare Brock Purdy to Jalen Hurts. You at home and realize it's not as crazy as it sounds. Both are elite when it comes to winning and losing. 7-0, 7-0. Passing yards per game, relatively the same. Think about completion percentage, roughly the same. Think about passing touchdowns. Think about total touchdown, passing plus rushing, 17, 16. The performance gap is not that wide. And that's all that matters. Eagles fans, I'm going to talk to your heart for a second. My former roommate, Nick Foles, no one would assume that he is as talented as Tom Brady. But in Super Bowl 52, Eagles fans, as you all know all too well, what mattered, not talent, performance. So the craziest but now very rational take, which you have heard, is that the performance gap, the gap that really matters, it actually isn't that wide between the two quarterbacks. And I can't wait to see the matchup Sunday. Let me head to the desk. I got Eagles all-time rushing leader. I'm going to give you time to process what I just said, let you digest.
Oh, what you just said. I heard some wow. Like, whoa.
Joy, let me come to you first on this one. How wide is the gap between Purdy and Hurts?
The gap is massive. It is a huge gap. Big, large. I mean, to steal up all the adjectives to explain the space. Jalen Hurts was an MVP candidate for most of the season. We didn't even know Brock Purdy's name until Jimmy G went down.
I did.
And that's no disrespect to Brock Purdy, because you weren't supposed to, because he was a seventh-round rookie and he was the third-string quarterback.
True.
Now, he's made a name for himself now.
Absolutely.
And it's not Mr. Irrelevant. But it ain't Jalen Hurts either. There's a difference, and it's massive, and it's Jalen Hurts is better, more experienced, plays at a higher level, has more skills. Whatever measurements you want to get to, maybe we'll stop at leadership, and I would still probably give Jalen the nod there as well.
Absolutely.
We also saw how valuable Jalen Hurts is to this specific team that I think we all agree is loaded. But what did they do, and how did that offense look when Jalen Hurts wasn't there? We know what Kyle Shanahan can do with a backup quarterback, because that's pretty much his entire existence in the NFL. What did the Eagles do with their backup quarterback, who was apparently as good as Jalen Hurts?
Not a whole lot.
Not a whole lot.
Losses.
It comes down to this. We know the talent gap is bigger. Maybe the performance gap is not as wide, although I will say last week, Brock Purdy didn't do much of anything that was impressive, and Jalen Hurts was amazing, but we're just probably going to ignore that game because the Dallas Cowboys are somehow going to wiggle in there and get some credit.
Why are you looking at me for?
Because I know where this conversation's going, so I'm just setting a couple landmines up for you because we did a little prep on this. At the end of the day, the game is on the line. Who would you rather have as your quarterback? All things being equal, which essentially they are when you're talking about these two teams. You'd rather have Brock Purdy or Jalen Hurts?
Jalen Hurts.
So then there's a gap.
Yes, there's definitely a gap. I just don't think the gap is as wide as so many people at home are trying to make it out to be. So many people at the water cooler are going to make it out to be. Because what I realize is Jalen Hurts is elite. We've all come to realize that this season. But Brock Purdy is playing at an elite level. So if somebody is currently acting as though they are elite, then there's no real differentiation between the person who is portraying somebody to be elite and the person who is actually elite. Because from a distance or from up close, you're getting the same results, quite literally from the numbers and figuratively when you just think about perception. But Dave Helman, let me come to you. You watch a lot of quarterbacks, and you've done it for a long time.
Yes.
How wide is the gap?
Here's my thing. I think the gap is wide. I mean, Jalen Hurts is in his third year starting at quarterback in the NFL. He was drafted higher, all the beautiful things you said. There is a gap. The problem here is that we're not playing these games in a vacuum. Like, my favorite analogy, if this was playground style and you're like, you have the choice between these guys, everybody's taking Jalen Hurts.
Of course, and they should.
And they should. That's not what's happening in the NFC Championship game, though. Brock Purdy is playing quarterback for arguably the most loaded roster in the NFL. And, Joy, I hear what you're saying about what Kyle Shanahan has done with backup quarterbacks, but consider They plugged Jimmy G into the lineup, a guy who started a lot of games in San Francisco, taking them to the Super Bowl. Then they put Brock Purdy in there and got better in, like, every way imaginable. Like, they have been so much more explosive. He's won 2 playoff games. And here, I think to prove Acho's point, which is why I can go along with this, they've played 2 playoff games against better quarterbacks. Geno Smith is a Pro Bowler, is he not? Like, Geno Smith is a much better quarterback. He's been in the league for almost a decade. He's supposed to be.
By talent.
Dak Prescott.
He's by talent.
Objectively, a better, more experienced, more accomplished quarterback than Brock Purdy. It hasn't mattered to this point. Partially because the Niners are such a fantastic team. Partially because the guy running the plays for them has made very little in the way of mistakes. I think it's interesting. It just keeps going up, right? Like, the Seahawks clearly overmatched in that game. The Cowboys, a little bit lesser of a team, but a much closer matchup. It got harder. It hasn't made a difference to this point. So mainly because of what the Niners bring to the table outside of the quarterback position, in this matchup, I don't think the gap is that big. There is a gap, though. I just don't think it's that big.
2-5. You know the Eagles very, very well.
This is a real topic, though.
Absolutely.
We're talking about an MVP candidate to a Mr. Irrelevant. And Brock Purdy has been playing well. I can't, hate on him, but he's a rookie. Let's take it back for a second.
Take it back.
You like to talk about numbers, right? Let's talk about playing the game, right? So as a rookie, how hard was it to be a rookie?
I know nothing.
I had a solid rookie year, right, Joey? I was okay. I was starting. I did my little thing. I just didn't want to mess up, right? So I think when I watched Brock Purdy play, he does have some plays where he makes plays and he does his thing.
No doubt about it. Can't deny it.
And that huddle, right? When they break it down the huddle, you got Kittle here, you got McCaffrey here, you got the Trent Williams, and then you got Debo, right? They look at him and look, call the play, man. Don't pick, call the play. Compared to Jalen Hurts in the huddle, they all believe in him.
Okay, keep going.
Think about that though for a second. That matters though. That's a small part.
Sure.
But the bigger part is this: we talking about all these games at home. When you put this rookie, right? Because there's one thing about it. He showed last game that he's a rookie, right? The only points that they really had early in the game.
I disagree, but finish your thought.
Was turnovers.
Finish your thought.
They couldn't move the ball.
Yes, sir.
All their points. Let's talk about the game.
Yep.
Against Dallas Cowboys.
Yes, sir, yes, sir.
All their points came from what?
Turnovers.
For turnovers.
They drove 91 yards for their touchdown.
He's right. They did.
They did do that.
30 of them yards was him passing, and the rest was pass. I'm sorry.
Running the ball.
Running the ball.
Correct.
Other way around.
Yes, sir.
Okay, 30 yards was passing, the other one was running. So I don't want to shine. I don't want to dim the light on his shine. I don't want to do that. I'm not here to do that.
Of course
But
not.
when we comparing Jalen Hurts, an MVP quarterback, right? A proven quarterback. He took his lumps. That's going to happen. He took his lumps, as a young quarterback on the road. We haven't seen this do on the road. We have seen Brock Purdy play against a top defense, and he did not look that good.
Here is what I will say, because I don't disagree with anything you're saying. Truth be told, I don't necessarily disagree with what Joy's saying, but here's what the lie I don't like being uttered by by so many people. But he acted like a rookie. He was a rookie. Eventually, he's going to be a rookie.
He didn't look like a rookie to me.
Brock Purdy struggled against the Cowboys defense, in my mind, because the Cowboys defense, we know, is fairly good. We saw Jalen Hurts play the Cowboys defense one time this year. It was Jalen Hurts' worst game of the season, by far, to whom it may concern. Jalen Hurts and the Eagles scored a whole bunch of points off of what, Dave Helman? Because you were watching the game. Turnovers. So I look at Brock Purdy, if and when he struggles against the Eagles, I don't think it's because he's a rookie.
Wait, you believe that, though, right?
What's that?
Everything you just said, you truly believe what you just said?
Yes.
So my thing is, when you put this rookie, right, in Philadelphia with the same type of defense like the Cowboys, maybe better. If you struggle, right, at home against the Cowboys, what do you think you're going to do against the Eagles on the road?
But I think if he struggles against the Eagles, it's because the Eagles are good, not because that he is a rookie. Dak Prescott, he wasn't a rookie, 7-year vet, struggled against the Niners. Trevor Lawrence, first half against the Chargers, he wasn't a rookie, 4 interceptions. Brock Purdy struggling isn't because he's a rookie in my mind, Joy Taylor. If he struggles, I think it's just because he's going up against competent opponents. Let me ask you this, though, Joy. We talked about it off camera, bringing it on camera. When you look at how great Brock Purdy has been, and he's been great, undefeated, can't get much better than that. 16 touchdowns, 3 interceptions as a starter, can't get much better than that. It's hard to be much better than Brock Purdy. So based on how he is playing statistically and how his team is winning. So how can you say, well, first off, you're giving me a look. Elaborate. What's the look mean?
I hate saying this because it's everyone says, do you watch the games? Do you watch the games? Yeah, we all watch the games. We watch all of the games. That's our job. We all watch all the games. it is strange to me that we could have watched that Dallas Cowboys game and give the credit to Brock Purdy for that win. How?
I didn't.
I'm not giving him
So
credit.
you're asking how could you play better? You could be the reason we win. Being the reason we don't lose does not make you better than Jalen Hurts, who was the reason they won. That's the gap, is that Brock Purdy isn't making mistakes, and that's commendable. It's the same conversation that we were having about Cooper Rush earlier this season.
Sure.
Commendable that you're not losing the game. That's commendable. That's not taking the team on your back and being the reason you win, and that's the gap. So if that's the case, which it is, it certainly was in this last game, If you want to give him Seattle, fine. But this game was not on Brock Purdy.
Of course.
No
But I
respectful
think-
game.
Okay.
Yes.
So it wasn't. We all agree with that.
Yes.
No
Correct.
touchdowns.
But I would say that's the only game it hasn't been Brock
Right,
Purdy.
but that's what just happened against a real defense in the postseason.
Correct, which the Eagles have not yet played because the Giants are 25th in defense. So, if we are talking about Brock Purdy in totality, since he came into the starting lineup, that's 10 more points per game.
But you do agree that like it gets harder and harder as the rounds go, right?
It should.
It does.
Yes, it should.
Okay. So
Okay,
now, so you went
put
from
a
playing.
little respect on the Giants who are in the divisional round. You don't accidentally get to the divisional round of the playoffs.
Nothing's an
They're
accident,
not the San Francisco 49ers defense. They're not the Eagles defense. They're not the Cowboys defense. They're not some bums. You don't accidentally get to the divisional round of the playoffs. And the Eagles whooped on them. They didn't just beat them. They whooped on them, and it was because of Jalen Hurts.
Yes.
Hold on. So
Okay,
wait.
so when you're talking about what the gap is between Brock Purdy and Jalen Hurts, you are the reason or you are the reason you don't lose. Are you the reason we win or are you the reason we don't lose? That's two different quarterbacks.
Correct, but
you can't talk about the rest of the team. What would Jalen Hurts be doing on this team? What would Brock Purdy be doing on another team? Like, we get into all these if conversations.
What I'm doing is assessing not just the last game, but every game.
Why not the last game? The last game.
I am assessing the last one as well. I'm assessing all of them.
See, and I said this about Dak Prescott. Everybody was going so crazy when he beat a bad team in the Bucs. Let's do it against a really good team. Same thing with Purdy. Purdy played against a really good defense, really good team. 0 touchdowns. Only had 19 points when he been putting up 30, right? I'm just trying to get the numbers right.
If Dak doesn't get credit for what he did to the Bucs, then how much credit are we going to give Jalen for what he did to the Giants? I mean, I think that's a fair.
It's divisional rounds. That's the
Same caliber of opponent.
He can have that. Cool. Because the conversation is not about Jalen. It's really about what's the gap between them two.
Yes, sir.
All right,
Break this
Purdy.
down for me.
Because we know what Jalen Hurts really is. With Purdy, we see he's surrounded by a lot of talent. So my thing is, when you put him against another good defense like the Eagles, because we all can agree the Eagles defense and the Cowboys defense is similar.
Yes, of course.
Okay.
Of course,
so my thing is this.
better.
Okay, I think the Eagles better.
Yeah, of course.
So if your numbers was what they were, 220 yards, no touchdowns.
Yep.
What you think you're gonna do with the Eagles?
Subscribe here to get the latest from Speak and go watch a few segments from our other shows on FS1.